Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee, for 5 minutes.
Chairman, thank you so very much. Many Americans have come to trust Hillary Clinton as a dedicated, committed public servant. But I believe it's important as we address these questions. Let me make one or 2 points. My colleagues have already made it, and I look forward maybe to coming back to Washington to dealing with the potential Russian intrusion on the election system. I'm not asking you, Director, at this time. And also the issue of connecting the dots as we deal with terrorism across America. But I do want to acknowledge Eric Williams, an outstanding detailee to this Judiciary Committee. Thank him for his service. And I want to thank the SAC in Houston, Mr. Turner, for helping us in the shooting that occurred in Houston, as you well know, that gave us a great deal of fear and scare just a couple of days ago. But Director Comey, my Republican colleagues have questioned, second-guessed, and attacked you and your team of career FBI agents. They disagree with the results of your investigation. They want you to prosecute or to have the DOJ to prosecute Secretary Clinton regardless of the facts. So they've engaged in an almost daily ritual of holding hearings, desperately trying to tear down your investigation and your recommendation. I believe you testified previously that your recommendation in that case was unanimous, and your investigation was carried out by what you called an all-star team of career agents and prosecutors. Is that right?
Yes, these were some of our very best. And sometimes because I'm lucky enough to be the person who represents the FBI, people think it's my conclusion. Sure, it's my conclusion, but I'm reporting what the team thought and their supervisors and their supervisors. As I said, this was, as painful as it is for people sometimes, this was not a close call.
Let me continue. You have written that the case itself was not a cliffhanger. Is that right?
Correct.
Recently, Republicans have attacked the decision to provide limited immunity to individuals during the investigation. For example, when Congressman Chavez learned about this, he stated, and I quote, "No wonder they couldn't prosecute a case. They were handing out immunity deals like candy." I understand that the FBI does not make the final call on immunity agreements. That was the DOJ. You made that clear. So his statement was just wrong. But did you consult closely with DOJ before these immunity agreements were concluded by having facts?
Right. Our job is to tell them what facts we'd like to get access to. The prosecutor's job is to figure out how to do that. And so they negotiate. I think there were 5 limited immunity agreements of different kinds that they negotiated.
Did you or anyone at the FBI ever object to these decisions to grant immunity? Did you think they made sense?
No, it was fairly ordinary stuff.
Was the FBI or DOJ handing out immunity agreements like candy?
That's not how I saw it and see it.
Congressman Gowdy, a good friend, also objected to granting immunity to Brian Pagliano and Mr. Combetta at Platte River Networks. He quoted, "These are the 2 people that FBI decides to give immunity to, Brian and the guy at Platte River, if it happened. Those are the 2 that you would want to prosecute, so you're giving immunity to the trigger people, and everybody goes free." Do you agree with this assessment? Did the FBI screw up here and let everyone go free because of these limited immunity deals?
No, I don't think so. The goal in an investigation like this is to work up. And if people have information that their lawyers are telling you that you're not going to get without some limited form of immunity, and they're lower down, you try to get that information to see if you can make a case against your subjects.
Congressman Gowdy also said this about the FBI, and I quote, "I've been underwhelmed by an agency that I once had tremendous respect for." Let me just say, sitting on this Judiciary Committee for many, many years, going through a number of investigations, I've never been proud of an agency that has always been there when vulnerable people are hurting and when there is a need for great work. But my question to you is, what is your response to that, Director Comey? Do you believe these criticisms are fair?
I think questions are fair. I think criticism is healthy and fair. I think reasonable people can disagree about whether I should have announced it and how I should have done it. What's not fair is any implication that the Bureau acted in any way other than independently, competently, and honestly here. That's just not true. I knew this was going to be controversial. I knew there'd be all kinds of rocks thrown. But this organization and the people who did this are honest, independent people. We do not carry water for one side or the other. That's hard for people to see because so much of our country we see things through sides. We are not on anybody's side. This was done exactly the way you would want it to be done. That said, questions are fair. Feedback is fair.
Absolutely. But the foot soldiers, we use that term in the civil rights movement, your agents on the ground, you take issue with whether or not they were compromised or they were adhering to somebody else's message. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. You can call us wrong, But don't call us weasels. We are not weasels. We are honest people, and we did this in that way. Whether you disagree or agree with the result, this was done the way you would want it to be done.
You were able to learn that Mr. Pagliano and Mr. Gambetta, you learned what they had to say. And if anyone who provided statements to the FBI had actually provided evidence that Secretary Clinton had committed a crime, would you then have recommended prosecution to the DOJ?
Oh, yeah. The case was there very aggressively.
You sure you wouldn't have been a little nervous about doing so, a little intimidated?
No, I really don't care.
You don't look like it. You're kind of tall, and that's...
I have a 10-year term. That's the beauty of this. Well, there's a lot of challenging things about this job. One of the great things is I have a certain amount of job security. And so, no, either way, we would have done what the facts told us should be done.
So are you now second-guessing your decision regarding Hillary Clinton?
No.
Let me just say in conclusion,
the time of the gentleman has expired.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the director and ask my colleagues to give the respect that this agency in this instance deserves. Thank you so very much for your service. I yield back.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Issa, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, I've got a lot of concerns, but one of them refers to Reddit. At the time that the Department of Justice, at your behest or your involvement, gave Paul Gambetta immunity, did you do so knowing about all of the posts he had on Reddit and capturing all of those posts and correspondence where he was asking how to wipe or completely erase on behalf of a VVIP, so to speak?
I'm not sure sitting here. My recollection is, and I'll check this and fix it if I'm wrong, that we had some awareness of the Reddit posts. I don't know whether our folks had read them all or not. We had a pretty good understanding of what we thought he had done, but that's my best recollection.
Okay. In the last week, en masse, he's been deleting them from Reddit posts. Is that consistent with preserving evidence? And I say that because there's still an ongoing interest by Congress, and only in spite of Reddit's own senior, what they call flak team, trying to hide it, only because a few people caught it, do we even know about it, and is this and other committees interested in getting the backups that may exist on these deletions? I guess my question to you is he destroying evidence relevant to congressional inquiries? And I'll answer it for you, yes, he is. And what are you going to do about it?
That's not something I can comment on.
Well, let me go into something that concerns this body in a very specific way. As a former chairman issuing subpoenas, I issued a subpoena, and additionally I issued preserved letters. In addition to that, now Chairman Chaffetz issued what were effectively preserved letters. Some of them were directly to Hillary Rodham Clinton while she was still Secretary. Others, the subpoena in 2013 was to Secretary Kerry. These individuals destroyed documents pursuant or took it out of federal custody pursuant to our subpoena and our discovery. As a result, they committed crimes. My question to you is, when I was a chairman and I wanted to grant immunity to somebody, I had to go notice the Department of Justice, and you were consulted. Isn't that correct?
In a particular matter?
In any matter.
I don't know whether the FBI is consulted in that circumstance.
Okay. For the record, yes, the Department of Justice does not grant immunity without checking with federal law enforcement to see whether it will impact any ongoing investigation. That's the reason we have a requirement to give notice. When the reverse was occurring, you were handing out like candy, according to some, immunity. Did you, or to your knowledge, Department of Justice, confer with Chairman Goodlatte, Chairman Chaffetz, Chairman Smith, or any of the other chairmen who had ongoing subpoenas and investigations?
Not to my knowledge.
So isn't there a double standard that when you granted immunity to these 5 individuals, you took them out of the reach of prosecution for crimes committed related to destruction of documents or withholding or other crimes pursuant to congressional subpoenas?
I don't think anybody was given transactional immunity.
Oh, really? Now, we have not allowed to make your immunities public, but I'm going to take the privilege of making one part of it public. I read them. You gave immunity from destruction to both of those attorneys, not just turning them over, the documents over, specifically destruction. You did the same thing with these other two individuals, Brian and Paul Cabetta. You gave them immunity from destruction.
Yeah, I don't think, well, again, I could always be wrong, but I don't have them in front of me either.
Well, because you don't let us take them out of the SCIF, it's a little hard for us too. But the fact is, when you read them...
My answer, I'm pretty sure that what was granted was use immunity. In the case of those two people, coextensive with 18 U.S.C. 6001, which means no statement you make can be used against you directly or indirectly. Transactional immunity is sometimes given also by prosecutors, says you will not be prosecuted in any event for this set of facts. I don't think there was any transactional immunity.
Well, when I read for both of the attorneys that immunity was granted, it's in both cases said destruction, in addition to the turning over. Why was that? Why would you believe that was necessary, or do you believe that would be necessary? You wanted the document. You wanted the physical evidence. Why did you have to give them immunity from destruction of materials? And because my time is expiring, when you look into it and hopefully get back to this committee, I'd like to know, does that immunity apply only to destruction on the computers delivered so that other destructions by Cheryl Mills could still be prosecuted?
Yeah, again, my recollection is no transactional immunity was given. A protection of statements was given to the Cabetta guy and Mr. Pagliano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, thanks. Gentleman recognized. Gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask unanimous consent quickly that a group of documents be included, and I'll summarize them. They're basically the letters and subpoenas that led up to the destruction of documents that were previously held for preservation. Additionally, the blog post from Reddit, if those could all be placed to the record.
Without objection, they will be made a part of the record. Gentleman
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you, sir. Director Comey.
Hearings desperately trying to tear down your investigation and your recommendation. I believe you testified previously that your recommendation in that case was unanimous, and your investigation was carried out by what you called an all-star team of career agents and prosecutors. Is that right?
Yes, these were some of our very best.
From Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee for 5 minutes.
Chairman, thank you so very much. Many Americans have come to trust Hillary Clinton as a dedicated, committed public servant. But I believe it's important as we address these questions. Let me make one or 2 points. My colleagues have already made it, and I look forward maybe to coming back to Washington to dealing with the potential Russian intrusion on the election.
And sometimes because I'm lucky enough to be the person who represents the FBI, people think it's my conclusion. Sure, it's my conclusion, but I'm reporting what the team thought and their supervisors. As I said, this was, as painful as it is for people sometimes, this was not a close call.
Let me continue. You have written that the case itself was not a cliffhanger. Is that right?
Correct.
Recently, Republicans have attacked of fear and scare just a couple of days ago. But Director Comey, my Republican colleagues have questioned, second-guessed, and attacked you and your team of career FBI agents. They disagree with the results of your investigation. They want you to prosecute or to have the DOJ to prosecute Secretary Clinton regardless of the facts. So they've engaged in an almost daily ritual of holding system. I'm not asking you, Director, at this time. And also the issue of connecting the dots as we deal with terrorism across America. But I do want to acknowledge Eric Williams, an outstanding detailee to this Judiciary Committee. Thank him for his service. And I want to thank the SAC in Houston, Mr. Turner, for helping us in the shooting that occurred in Houston, as you well know, that gave us a great deal